Hi, HonestDiscussioner here. AgnosticMan77 has put a call out to make a video called basically Portrait of an Atheist, in which atheists describe what their beliefs actually are. And the purpose of this is basically to try to show theists that we're not all the same, that really an atheist is really just someone who lacks a belief in God, and there's really nothing else that we totally agree on. So I guess I'm going to talk about a couple things, and then we'll see how it goes. Given that I just did a video on abortion, which going pretty well, I'd have to say, lots of discussion on the matter, I'll start off with abortion. My personal beliefs is that through some sort of defining what a human being is, we can ascertain at what point the fetus becomes a human being. I've heard some people claim it isn't until, well, after birth. I personally think that's kind of ridiculous. I've also heard many people state it's at the moment of conception. I also find that to be, I don't want to say ridiculous, but unfounded. The best argument for that is that it has potential, but potential, as far as I'm concerned, is meaningless until it actually becomes realized. So, through defining what a human being is, I would argue that's consciousness and ability to think or feel, something along those lines. If we're able to ascertain the stage of development in which that happens, aborting the fetus afterwards is murder, and aborting it before is not, and should be acceptable. Of course, even if it does become a human being, it's still okay to have an abortion if the life of the mother is in grave jeopardy. Because I still think she would technically be a bit of higher up on the scale. She already has people that rely on her and such. So that's my thoughts on abortion. I'm actually pretty much 100% against the death penalty, unless you can show that someone is dangerous enough that they will most definitely escape and most definitely start raping, pillaging, murdering, that sort of thing, and being a danger to society. Then I think incarceration is still the best option, because once you kill them, you've kind of... You gotta have lost something there, because that person can never make up for the things that they've done, and just killing them doesn't really help the situation. It doesn't bring back the people that they killed. Also, most of the people that have done these cold-blooded things have psychological issues, which, like for example, sociopaths. What if we could cure sociopaths? I'm not exactly arguing that we should let them go at that point, but them being able to realize what they've done and try to make up for it, I think the possibility is there, and I think that is worth the cost of incarcerating them over just killing them off. So that's my stance on the death penalty. Now, I've really never heard an argument for the legalization of marijuana that really made any sense whatsoever. I mean, there's really nothing about it that is any worse, in fact, even on equal terms, with alcohol. It doesn't impair you quite as much. It definitely doesn't promote violent behavior as much. It's impossible to overdose on it, or at least difficult enough that it pretty much doesn't ever happen. And there's just really nothing about it that is worse than alcohol, as far as I can tell. And even if there's one small thing that you can point to, it's really still nothing in comparison to alcohol, which is very legal. And really, if you notice that countries that have stricter alcohol laws, they're normally not as bad with their alcohol abuse as we are. The very fact that we've made pot illegal in the first place has probably made it more prevalent than it was. It also is contributing so much to crime down the border in Mexico, and it's legalizing would solve a lot of problems. We spend so much money on drug enforcement for marijuana, which has almost no negative side effects really to speak of, at least nothing in comparison to a lot of the other things that are legal. And also the the fact that people can get incarcerated for this, get a black mark on their record, and basically be screwed through for a very long time as far as their jobs are concerned. We imprison more people than I think anyone but maybe China and North Korea. We're somewhere around there. Our jails are a little bit too full to be worrying about marijuana right now at this time. Other things I think are way more addictive and can actually be shown to have a general harm on society, and people who want to stop really can't. I mean, lots of people could stop drinking alcohol. There are people that are addicted to it, but they usually have addictive personalities. But whether or not you have an addictive personality, you smoke crack enough times, and sometimes even once, you're addicted and you really can't help yourself. Same thing with heroin, and those things just mess with your mind way too much to be trusted, unlike with alcohol and marijuana. So that's my stance on drug laws. Next up was gay rights, but really, come on. Really? Do we really need to be talking about this? I'm sorry. We define marriage as between a man and a woman. We define a lot of things, and then we realize those definitions are wrong, and then we change them. That's really the only argument that they have that isn't purely based on religion, and even that argument is based on religion. Do we really need to be talking about this? Leave the gays alone. Economics is a topic I don't even think can really be called a science. I mean, it involves lots of complex issues, and there's definitely a lot of analyzing involved, but there's way too many unknown variables that we can't account for to really call it a science, because we can't nail down a lot of the things that affect it. I mean, there are villages in China that affect our economy. So on the grand scheme of things, to try to really do this whole prediction sort of thing that economists are trying to do, and forecasting, oh, in 6 months we're getting better. We don't really know. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, and it's really just shooting in the dark most of the time, even for the smartest economists. Now, economic policies, I am kind of starting to lean towards socialism. I think capitalism steps on the little guy way too much. We obviously can't go to pure communism in any regard, because, well, we found that out with Russia pretty clearly. Sweden seems to have a pretty nice deal. My uncle says that the problem with us is that we tax about the same much as Sweden does. The only problem is we hide it in 50 million places, as opposed to Sweden just has one huge tax, and it's a little bit more fair. From what I've seen, they've got it pretty well. So I'd like to hear some arguments as to why they're not doing so well, even though they seem to be doing well. Why that really wouldn't work here. If anyone's got that, I'd love to talk about it, as long as you're not going to yell. I want to turn this into a tag video, actually. I hope Agnostic Man approves. So I'm going to tag 5 atheists to give your atheist self-portrait, or portrait of an atheist, whatever it was. And I'm, of course, going to tag my boy Smartmouth Pundit. I'd also really like to hear from ProfMTH, TomTomHungry as well, since I know how much you love tag videos, TomTom. I'd also like to hear from DasAmericanAtheist and the Other Side 100. So that's about it. Have a nice day. HonestDiscussioner, out.